Welcome, welcome everyone to a very special episode of Women of Dance. I'm your host, Sharonne Vinokurov. I'm so happy to be back. It's been a little bit of a break. We haven't been on since 2021. I have a very special panel here to celebrate the kickoff of Women's History Month. Yesterday was International Women's Day. Tomorrow is the 1 year anniversary of the show. So I couldn't pick a better time to do this. So without further ado, let me bring on some of today's panelists. We have the fabulous Julissa Cruz. Hello, hello. We have the lovely Kelly Lannan. And we have the fabulous Anya Katsevman. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
How are you all doing today?
Fabulous.
Can everybody hear me well? Are we all good and ready to go?
Yep.
Fantastic. So we do have hopefully one or two more guests that will be joining us shortly. They're running a little bit late. In the meantime, let's get started with these fabulous, fabulous divas. And I use that word in the best possible way. Let's go around. Everybody give yourself a little bit of an introduction, as you've all been guests on my show before. But give a brief little 30-second, this is who I am. Let's go alphabetically. Anya, let's start with you.
Oh, great. I was hoping you would go in the order you introduced us, because I don't know why, but I'm a little nervous. It's weird.
You were my first guest ever.
I know, and I love doing these things. So I don't know. I'll figure it out. Self-introductions are weird.
Of course.
Here we go. I have been dancing since 1995. I started with International Ballroom. I did that until 2007, went all the way to the professional ranks. And in 2007, I discovered salsa when I was working for a dance school in Manhattan. I fell in love with it. I loved the freedom and the concept that people dance for fun, right? That's not something I knew when I was doing ballroom. And I also enjoyed the cross-training aspect of it. So I thought, as a ballroom dancer, my vocabulary and knowledge of technique and mechanics could really be advantageous for the salsa industry. I became a world champion twice in the on-two category, and by the year 2010. And in 2010, I started judging and training others. Since then, I have trained probably, over 20 world champions in a variety of categories and dance styles and all the different divisions. And I love that, and it feels great. And I've had several partners throughout time, and am now embracing working specifically with women and creating high-level material that is accessible for dancers at all stages of their dance progress, and performing with them, which is kind of new for me, but I'm enjoying it. And also during the pandemic, I've totally found a new additional vocation for myself with exploring my intuitive practice and abilities. So now I also do personal coaching, life coaching with an emphasis on intuitive guidance from source, spirit. You can call me a psychic, whatever the words that resonate with you are. It's a big part of what I do today. And again, in that avenue, also focus a lot on working with women, on women's issues, and embodying divine feminine energy, being open to it, and really recalibrating what it means for each individual to be a woman.
Love it. And as somebody that you have coached to a championship title, I'm really glad that you became a coach. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to say it gives to me as much as it gives to you. So thank you.
So love you. Thank you for that. Julissa.
Hi.
Give everybody a little background on you and your fabulous self.
My name is Julissa Cruz. I own Latin Vintage Dance Company since 2009. We're celebrating lucky number 13 this year.
Yeah.
I'm currently in the DMV area. I have teams and classes and all that jazz. Not much else to say. I'm a mom of 3. I'm a wife. I'm a child. I'm a woman. All the above. I really, our mission statement is the passionate pursuit of the arts, community, and self, because I really think that dance is a personal journey. And it's important to be a part of our community, and it's important to respect the arts and the dance floor and really give it its due diligence. So yeah, I'm passionate to be here. I'm passionate to share time with you guys, and I'm excited to get into the conversation.
And you are such a fabulous artist. I have had the chance, luckily, to share the stage with you once.
Yes.
And oh, you give me all the life, all the feels on stage. So I'm so happy to have you.
I love a good collab.
Yes, a good collab is always fantastic. Kelly, let's take it over to you. Greetings from Calgary. Give everybody a little info about yourself.
Yes, good morning from Calgary. My name is Kelly Lannan. I'm one of the owners of Alberta Dance Sport here in Calgary, Canada, and we teach social dance of all styles, salsa, ballroom. I'm also one of the directors of Salsa Rica Dance Company. We have a big team of dancers who love salsa. One of the organizers of the Calgary International Salsa Congress and the Edmonton Ballroom and Salsa Gala. Our Calgary International Salsa Congress is happening at the end of the month. Finally, so excited after 3 years. Yay! So it's our 13th annual, but it's been a long, long time coming. I'm also one of the directors of the Alberta Dance Sport Foundation, which is a not-for-profit supporting arts and culture in Canada. And I spend a lot of my time judging and traveling to competitions and helping other organizers to put on their competitions. And it's been a wonderful year for that. It's nice to be back at events and seeing people again and hugging them.
Yes, Kel, I've done many events where you have been the MC and the judge, and I've told you this before. There's something so calming about your voice and something so reassuring as a competitor. When you hear Kelly do that, you're like, ah, I feel good. She's introduced me so like I can't explain. I love it. No competition feels the same when you're not there introducing us. That's for damn sure.
Oh, well, thank you. I love the competitors. I know how hard they work, so they deserve a little bit of love out there.
All right. Well, let's get started with our first topic of the day. I don't really want it to do as like a history of salsa breakdown because we could go through it all. But one of the things that I'd spoken to you ladies about is the role of women in the salsa industry. If you look through history, if you look through research material, it's very minimalized, right? We hear a lot about the male instructors and not the female instructors. So I'm curious to know from each one of you, who was your first female salsetta inspiration? And I'll open it up to whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first.
All right, cool. I was about to pick someone if you did.
I'm about to pick the name out of my hat. You're lucky I like to talk, girl. So my first experience or my first time that I really saw a female dancing and thought, wow, it was inspiring to me. It was when I was like 19, 20. And that's when Salsa Brava in LA was like super big. And I saw Joby Brava. I always get her name all tongue-tied because of the BY and the BR. But
I've done it too.
She was really the first female that I saw that looked really powerful by herself. Even though she was in a partnering and in a team environment, I always felt like when they would break off or do something, she always looked really powerful to me. Like you could tell she had a dance background and I came from a dance background. So she immediately spoke to me. I was in Florida, I did an on one team. So she was on one. It was very like, we connected on that. She was also the first person I saw do a solo. And this was when I was like 19 years old. So I was like, oh, this is like a thing, you know, like this could take off. And I just thought she was like the coolest thing. Like, I was like, wow, I just want to be able to get into the salsa and attach my background dance into it and really make it my own. So she inspired me in that when I was about 19. And then a couple years, maybe 2 or 3 years later, for the first time I saw Georgette. She was actually on stage leading. She was dressed up. She had like the guys in that routine. I guess they lost a guy, which is normal.
It happens.
So we always lose guys. So she was dressed up in like all white with her white shoes and her hair was pulled back in a bun because, you know, she has voluptuous hair. Like a lot. She had it all pulled back, and she was front and center, and she was leading, but like dope as hell. And I was just like, what? My mind was blown. I was like, I could do that too. Like, it's so inspiring, because at that point, I can envision what I wanted routines to look like, but I didn't have the lead background to say, oh, like I knew what I wanted in picture form.
Mm-hmm.
Have the technique of leading, and it was one of those things that it was just like, well, maybe I don't need to take a class. I can just tell him, ask him, and then he can tell me how to lead this. But when I saw her leading, it was like, oh, she just gave me the green light. We're about to do it all now. Like,
I love it.
it was those two definitely stuck out in my like trajectory of where I wanted to go, and the type of things I wanted to do, and the type of things that I felt were now allowed, if you will, to me. Like, they danced in their truth and in their freedom and whatever it is they wanted to do. So then it was like, oh, okay, we can do this. We can do all of this. There's no the only rules we have are the ones we limit ourselves to. So it was very inspiring. And again, I was like 19 and then maybe 21 when I saw Georgette leading.
Wow.
So it was super cool for me. Those were the two that really stuck out.
What about you, Kelly?
Well, I was definitely going to kick it off with, starting in LA and seeing Salsa Brava and Jovi. She is amazing. But for me, it's always been, and she's still performing, and I still get to train with her, once in a while. But for me, it's always been Tamara Libolsi, who dances with Tito Ortos, and she's always been the one that I look to see what she's doing next. And lucky that I still get to see her dance. But certainly starting off in LA, I was going to mention, always looked forward to the shows of Salsa Brava and seeing what Jovi did.
Yeah. Nice. Anya?
I was introduced to a lot of our scene in New York through Nelson. So I'm privileged enough to say that my first experience with salsa included Maribel and Stracy. Right. And I just feel really lucky to say that, because they're powerhouse women that did it all. They have background training. They did all the dances, right? It wasn't when you watched Descarga Latina, and specifically Maribel Maldonado and Stracy Diaz, you saw that everything was there. Right. Yeah. They had everything. They had presence, they had technique, they had taste, they had quality, and they did it all. Stracy flies better than anyone. There was hustle even back then. Everything was there. And that was very encouraging for someone that had dance background walking into salsa, specifically in New York, right, where the roots are so rooted and the culture is such a big emphasis. And so there were places where I didn't always feel welcome because I had dance background, and watching them made me feel that it's safe, because they did, and they danced salsa in the way that I liked it. So I feel very grateful that I had the two of them to look up to.
Yeah, the Descarga Latina ladies are definitely the third on my list. And I probably saw them when I was like maybe 25. And I'm privileged to say that Stracy is my friend. Like, I love talking to her and sharing with her like regular life things. But yeah, when I first saw them too at 25, it was like, oh, okay, it's a whole nother bracket. Like, from their fingertips down to their pointed toes, it was like, oh, it's a thing. It's real now. Like, it's like another level for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know I'm not really the panelist, so my opinion don't matter as much as your guys's, but I will say, for me at least, and I'm kind of relieved she's not on the feed yet because I think I would have been nervous. Karel was one of the first women that I saw. It was that Yamule piece with the red costume.
And or something.
Mm-hmm. So, and I just remember watching, someone showed me that video and I was like brand new to the scene, and I saw it and I was like, yo, what is this? And this girl is killing it with this routine.
There was this epic, I want to say this because I feel like it's the same performance, but there was this epic night where I think it was LVG and Yamule performed Mujer, and that was Like the
It's
most
a video.
incredible show I've ever seen Karel do ever.
Oh,
Like
she was
just
her oats.
she was
all her oats that
everything.
day.
Everything. And I remember like literally sitting in the front row and watching that live right in my face. And it was truly super, like must have been 15 years ago, and I still remember it. That was a really good show. Yeah.
So someone had said to me, look up Yamule. And I looked them up, and they didn't mention her name. They just said, look up Yamule, right? And I watched it, and I was like, yo, who is this chick? She's amazing. And then it wasn't until I met Anya, when Darlin brought Anya in to work with the team, not long after I had joined, that I was like, oh, I might actually belong in this industry. Because until I saw Anya, I didn't know that Russian Jewish girls could be successful in the salsa industry. I just thought it was somewhere where we could just play. I didn't think it was someplace that would accept us. So when I got to meet Anya and I heard she won, I was like, oh, hold up. They like us Russian Jewish girls? Let me try this out here. Let me see what else I can do. So thank you for that, Anya.
Well, thank you for saying that. But that's also another huge reason why we should all know Millie Donay.
I know. Exactly. It's insane. And let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about, now that we've talked about who our role models are, why is it that when we talk about the history of salsa, we talk about the men and not the women? Someone explain this to me, because you guys have all been in this business longer than I have. So someone tell me why this is the case. Please educate me.
I mean, I'm not the one, because I don't even understand why that's even a thing still. Because really, the woman makes the whole damn show. Truth be told. I mean,
right?
We make the whole show. No offense. I mean, yes, we got to be led by some good leads, but back leader that still look cute though. So, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know what that's still a thing.
I think our community does a really good job mirroring where society goes wrong, period, right? And so there's a few dynamics at play here. One is women historically, for many centuries, have been hidden, killed, taken out of the history books, right? Like there are certain powers that be that have created a dynamic where the man represents all the good things and the woman represents all the bad things. And that, it goes back, right? Because even Eve was this bad girl that sinned and etc., right? So
from the get-go.
There's that dynamic, right? And then also culturally, right, that's enhanced within the Latin American community. And so there's that dynamic, right? And again, I was a ballroom dancer for many years. It's the same dynamic. So it's not a cultural thing, but all of these things play into it. And I remember even being a ballroom dancer and feeling like, well, if I'm a good male dancer, I'll make the final. But if I'm a good female dancer, it doesn't really matter, right? I need a good male dancer. And so we just have this perpetuating story that is being retold and retold in many industries for many reasons. And the issue is society at large, right? And unfortunately, we also carry some of those ways without even noticing it, right? Like, you said chick, like who's that chick, right? Like that's such a guy thing to say that already makes us smaller, right? But we do it. And it's not our fault. We've just been fed these words and these dynamics since we're very little. So I'm not even sure that our scene is like to blame, right? Because there's so much bigger fish to fry. But I do think we have an opportunity to change that narrative through our scene, especially as leaders in our community, and to make sure that the next generation doesn't struggle in the way that we did.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said, Anya. Really. Kel, what do you got to add on to that?
Yeah, I echo. I think that the lady said it very, very, very well. I think that that's why what you're doing today is so important. You know, it's important, as Anya finished off with. It's really, really important as leaders in our industry that we celebrate and work with and hire and hold up other artists. And I think we do have a huge opportunity right now. And that's how I'm seeing it. And bravo to you for doing this panel.
Oh, I'm so happy to do it. I wish I could do it all the time, but all of you fabulous ladies have such busy schedules that it was like shocking that I was even able to do this. And quick update, I did get a message from Karel that unfortunately she is hurt and is not able to join us. She has to go to the doctor, I guess. So Karel, we wish you a speedy recovery. We're very sorry that you couldn't join us today. I'm sure we'll talk again. I had her on, I'll have her back on. And hopefully we will do more panel discussions. Today, really the focus is the women of salsa. At some point, I'm going to have women of bachata. I'll do women of hustle. I'll do women of ballroom. We'll do international only. There's so many panels we could do. Like I could just figure it out all day. All the women. And the best part about it is I can just sit here and talk to you guys and I don't have to go producing in the background and switching video clips. So this is nice. It's like the easiest stream I've ever had to do.
We'll do it for you.
You'll
Every
do it?
5 minutes, one of us will do a little dance.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Improv, fantastic. Let's go with it. So, continuing with this topic about the non-visibility of all these fabulous women. Two of you have run events like congresses, right? Kel, you have Calgary. Julissa, you've done Latin Pura Vintage.
Mm-hmm.
Anya, you've run not congresses but competitions. But right now, I want to focus a little bit more just on the Congress aspect, because especially for the two of you, you hire artists, you plan a workshop schedule. Why is it that only one microphone is given at a workshop when there are two instructors to teach? Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, not my intention, but I'm just curious. Who is it, a budget issue? Like, why is it that whenever we travel to congresses, you know, all these couples like Tito and Tamara or Harold and Regan or Karen or whatever, but it's only one microphone, but there's two artists. Why is that?
That's a question for Kelly because I never use microphone.
All right, Kelly.
That's a really good
You
question.
say it with your chest. You got it.
It's a good question. I think that probably in congresses does come down to budget, to be honest, because, you know, there's always enough microphones for, you know, the stage, the handhelds, but I think it probably does come down to budget. But, you know, in our school, both instructors wear a mic all the time. And quite often, you know, if there's only one microphone, quite often my partner Eric gives me the microphone. So, you know, it happens a lot of times where there's just one microphone, and I think it's probably a budget thing. But I have learned something today, because I think that in our studio we always have two microphones, but when we're running 4 workshop rooms, we often don't have 2 headset mics per workshop room. But I will make sure that happens, because I'm with you. I think that's really important that the artists have the choice.
There you go. Look at that. We're making changes and we're only 25 minutes in. Yes. Yes, ladies,
Yeah,
let's
but
change this industry.
It's a great point. I remember when I first started traveling, it was almost like assumed that the man would do the talking.
Yes.
And I remember, you know, it's really funny because the dynamic with with my first dance partner really changed throughout our careers. Because like he walked into it with all of these rules that I must have been exposed to being a dancer in the past, but not this clearly, because when you're a ballroom dancer, you're competing. You're not really an artist that is hired, right? Like competition's always elective and something you pay to do. So when we first started traveling, you know, he was very adamant about doing certain things, which included collecting the money, doing all of the communication, doing the teaching. in the microphone, and like those kinds of things. And then very quickly through our time together, he realized that that part's actually work. And then he stopped doing it, right? So, like he would never answer emails. He would, so it was like this, I'm the man, I do these things. And then it was like, oh, wait, that means I have to make effort. So no, it's okay. You go do it. And then try to flip it in a way of like, no, it's okay. You go have your turn type of thing, which was hilarious. And I do remember just feeling that it was all really weird. Like why is there already an assumption that this belongs? Why is this a role that only belongs to one person? And if one person is doing more of the administrative part, why is there like an attitude behind it? Why is there a specific intention behind it? It was just all really strange, really, really strange. But I could say that I never played ball with that. And it's not because I wanted to make a statement or stand up for women's rights, because I was 100% in it. Listen, I'm a Jewish kid that comes from a Soviet family who are baby boomers, we lost everyone in the war. There were no men. Men were on a pedestal, still are. My mother dotes over my brother, and our relationship is very different. So it like, I get it. And still, it just felt so wrong and not productive, that for the sake of the dancing, for the sake of my students in the classroom, for the sake of the email being answered, I feel like I never played ball. And it's weird for me when I have my students going through the same thing, and they just accept it as normal, right? And I'm sharing this story to shout out all the women that are out there trying to do this professionally or even semi-professionally, to just say it's not normal. And just because it's common doesn't make it right. And you are valuable and you are important, and what you think matters and what you have to say matters, and we are all equal, albeit different, but equal. So I think there's a lot we can do as artists to stand our ground, right? When we do see one microphone, put the microphones away. Neither one of you gets one, right?
Oh, I like that.
There's things you can always do to make sure that dramatic words coming just because I can't find other ones, justice is served, right? Like there are always things you can do.
For sure. Julissa, I feel like you wanted to add something and be taking notes over there?
I mean, there's nothing to add. I think they pretty much said it. You said about the microphone, and I guess because I don't like to have a microphone plugged in, I just never really noticed that there was only one. Like, just like, I don't want to be on the mic. Like, if I needed to say something, especially when I was traveling with my partner, I would just grab his face and talk into the mic, like if I wanted it. But I guess it never bothered me. But it is these like small microaggressions, right, that let you know where you stand in the grand scheme of things. And you don't notice them because they're small little things.
Well, here's my thing, right? Let's say I take Anya's route, right? And I say to my partner, no, like we should share or whatever. How come when we as females try to stand up for ourselves, all of a sudden we're being called demanding?
Demanding, you said?
Demanding, right? Like, or you're being a diva, or like, why are you whining or complaining? I've heard some men in this business. I've been in this industry for now a while. I've done a lot of traveling. I've heard a lot of things. And I have heard men, even jokingly, make comments that are so arrogant, right? Like you hear these things come out of their mouths and you're like, if I ever said something like that, nobody would ever speak to me again. Nobody would ever. Yeah, right. It would be off with my head. It would be, this girl has an ego trip. Like, who does she think she is? But I hear it from men in this industry all the time. And it never comes off as them being diva-like or demanding. Like, why is it okay for a man to say, I'm not going to go to this event unless I make $1,000 for the weekend? Like, I won't leave my house for less than $1,000. But if a female partner says to the male partner, I'm not going to take a job for less. Oh, but now you're just being demanding.
Yeah.
Why would you be worth that much? You can't ask for that. I hear it all the time. I've interviewed, this is my 33rd episode, and a lot of women have given a lot of information online. And then I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of women afterwards that give me even more tea, you know what I mean? And like give me some more truth. And I'm just blown away.
Yeah.
So why is that? Why can't
I'll
we
take
speak
it.
our minds? You'll take it,
I
go.
mean, there is a lot of hurt, disempowered people in the world, period. And again, men have a tendency of, getting off scot-free for a lot of disempowered behavior, just because that has been normal for centuries. Doesn't make it okay. But to truly understand the dynamic, because I'm very literal and you're saying why. So I just want to give the literal explanation of why it happens.
Please do. Please do.
Every single one of us, right, deserves to feel good about ourselves, to feel empowered, to feel happy, all of the things. And every single one of us goes through experiences that kind of shatter that, right? And whenever you're doing anything derogatory towards another person, you literally don't feel enough personal power. So you're trying to take it from the other. So in this particular dynamic, what is continuously happening is the man tries to disempower the woman based on his own personal disempowerment. And the reason it happens so commonly is because you will ask the question. You will be like, why is that okay? Why do you feel this way about me? Why? Men don't do that. They don't care, right? And again, I'm not saying that as a good or a bad thing. That's just the dynamic, right? And men very rarely, they'll do the aggressive part, right? But have you ever tried saying that same thing to the man? Right? We don't dare put ourselves in that position either to then question, right, their power, right? We don't do that. And so it's just easy for them to constantly be aggressive because we take it, we cry about it, and which we should, right? Because we should all feel our feelings. And then we actually care, right? We still want their attention. We feel like they're powerful. So they're disempowering us to feel personal power, and then we re-empower them because we actually care and we stick around and we want to figure it out, and etc. Right? And so that continues to manifest until somebody leaves, right? Until someone's like, wait a second, why are you questioning why I'm saying this? What gives you the right to say that, right? And I've never really seen anyone flip the script. And it's not easy, like I try, I really try, and I fail 90% of the time, but I succeed 10% of the time, and it feels really good, and it adds to my bucket of feeling secure. And when you're secure and someone else says something stupid, you don't give away the power, because you're like, like if my hair is black and you tell me that I'm blonde, like I'm gonna laugh at you, right? Because I'm just so rooted in what's true for me. And we don't do that. We don't take our time to be rooted in what's true for us. Instead, we take our time to figure out why this person is taking this from me, right? And so that perpetuates it. So men are responsible for the issue because they're running around trying to take our power because they don't have enough of their own. And women are part of the problem because we're like, why are you taking my power? Why? But we keep giving it to them because we're also not focused on our own, right? And the cycle will only end when every single person stops looking over their shoulder, recognizes that we live in a very abundant universe and there's enough for everybody. And I don't have to take from you in order to have. And actually, every time you see someone succeeding, that is just evidence that you can succeed also, right? And the more empowered everyone around us is, the easier it is to be happy, especially for those of us that are sensitive. And let's face it, as dancers, we are all very sensitive. So we feel what Julissa so beautifully said is the microaggressions, right? When we feel them in a very macro way, right? And then we're just all walking around being triggered. Right. And so that's, I think, the cycle that we're in, that, right, that to get off the hamster wheel, we just literally have to be like, all right, that, I mean, honestly, every time I pay attention to what you say about me, I make your opinion more important than mine. And that's just not happening, right? Like, who are you even to have an opinion about me, right? That, I think that's the only way to get off the hamster wheel.
Well, I also think, it's the male ego or the lead role or that takes the part. But I think as women, we have to be on each other's side. You know, like I think there's a lot in educating other women, and I'm not just talking about like. Sorry, my dog is off the radar. And I'm not just talking about like let's get a gang of girls and we're like, you know, badass bees, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like real community. Like let's talk about what's important to you. Like let's talk about what you feel when you dance that you're not living in your utmost confident self. Like what is making you feel that way? Like what makes you feel powerful? Learning that within a space of other women, and just more women teachers really educating their females or their follows and their leads. Like I have conversations all the time with my girls about what their role is, like as far as like, can you stop? Like for instance, for example, like there's a 20-minute song playing that the band is playing and they're going off. They're doing their male ego thing and hitting a bunch of drums for like 20 minutes. And you're on the dance floor, like my feet are about to burn. And I said, well, at that point, I'm like, all right, it was fun. Please, I'm going to sit down. One of my girls was like, oh, can we do that? Can we stop? Like, can we tell them that I'm done? Yes, you can. Like, it's about educating people to understand their value on the other side, you know, like, and also to understand the value of what dance is trying to bring to you. Like, I've been dancing for a long time. I've been doing it professionally. I do it as a living, but I don't let the constructs of the actual scene and all the mumbo jumbo dictate what I'm going to do. You don't want to book me? That's cool. I will be happy staying home. Like, that's it. The problem is that we settle. We settle because we want to be seen or we want to be heard or we want to be valued. But really the value is in taking a stand. The value is in staying home versus going to an event that is somehow going to belittle you anyway. So it's really about finding spaces that value you as a woman and finding other women that are there to walk along in that journey and that have your back and that encourage you. You know, they don't have to be a BFF, but they are women of integrity. They are women of choice, you know? And I think it's so important to teach that choice. We don't say it enough. Even to my leads, I tell them, the girl can peace out on you anytime if you're not going to lead that correctly. Like, it's just, she has that choice. And I don't think we speak on that enough. We already know the problem. We speak about the problem so much. We see it everywhere. It's on billboards. The male ego, this is that, the society that comes into the thing. What we need to be doing is talking about how we can change that from our point of view, having spaces like this where we talk. And it's really not about bashing the way we've been doing things. It's an ignorance because we're stemming from what society is. Okay, but I'm not trying to live my life ignorantly. I'm not trying to have people dictate and take away the joy that I have in dance because that's my joy. That's my time. That's my time off, if you will. Like being on the dance floor is what brings me joy. So you ain't taking that away from me just because you want to make a silly comment or whatever. I had one time when I had my first kid, when I had my first child, I had just gave birth. It was like, I don't know, 6 months later. And I had someone come out to me and was like, well, yeah, I mean, I'd love to have you. I'm like, okay. Well, he's like, well, I figure since you just had a kid, you would need it. So let me just pay you this. And I'm like, whoa, wow, back it on up. Like, if anything, I just gave birth to another life. My value has tripled. Like, no, like,
Wow.
I give breath. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's that idea that because I had a kid, there is a need for me to devalue myself in order to feel relevant. I don't need you to make me feel relevant. That's not ever going to happen. I don't need to be relevant in your eyes because my joy comes from my release and my relevancy comes from what I do for myself and my community and my dancers and the relationships I build. It's bigger than just the scene, you know. But people will try to do it to you. And the problem is that we are not educating our women that enter the scene enough to say that you have a choice in saying no. No is a very powerful tool. And people are like, well, I don't want to say no because you'll never get booked. But then you get booked for things at pennies. And then you wonder why you're still working at pennies for 17 years later. You're still receiving pennies. You have to value yourself from the time up. If you don't value yourself, no one else will. So
True.
it's so important to teach. We talk about the problem. We really need to be talking about the solution and how women can be each other's, you know, I am my sister's keeper. You know what I'm saying? Like, I may not know any of you personally, but if I see some foul, I'm going to speak up because I am my sister's keeper. So it's so important to stand on that ground, regardless of what's going on, and to not feel like, well, I have to take this work because then I can't do this, or you don't have to do any of that. You don't create your own space. That's what I did.
Yep.
There wasn't enough spaces that I liked it to be in and I didn't feel comfortable. I created my own event and I brought my own people and I created my own thing. Like you have to do it for you. You know what I mean? Like no one should be able to say, here comes the lead. Oh, you're going to be here. No, it's not like that. Create your own space, create your own way. And I'm sure that other women will follow that lead.
I love it.
And they do. Yeah. And they do. And, you know, that was so beautifully said. And I think it kind of boils over to everything.
Yes.
Right. We have a choice in everything we do. And dance has this wonderful, magical way of mirroring relationship, right? Because we do it with the opposite sex and because there's a giver receiver component, because I don't like lead and follow. And you know, we get to exercise all of those things. And I agree with Julissa completely. And it's not easy, right? It's not easy to go against popular opinion. It's not easy to be the voice of saying things that other people are afraid to say, but it does work. Yeah. And I've had the same experiences where I'm like, you know what? I don't feel valued here. I don't need to come back. And yeah, it's very scary. It's very scary because this is your livelihood. It's how you put food on the table and pay for the roof over your head. But at the same time, my sanity is more important to me. My health is more important to me. Yes. And me saying yes to all of your demands doesn't give me my health back, right? Yes. And if I'm not healthy and happy, then I'm not of value to anyone. So it's so deep, right? What Julie just said is so deep and it boils over to everything. You always have choice. Everything in life is elective, believe it or not, unless it has to do with your physical safety, right? And that has to be a priority. And in a lot of these situations, that is what's at danger here, you guys, right? And you think that these are small things, but they're not. Some of the demands you say yes to are really bad for you, right? And emotional things fester and become disease, and they become illness, and they become addiction. So pay attention to those things. They're not small, regardless of how much someone that benefits from your sacrifice tells you that it's no big deal. It's a big deal. And it takes for you to be able to say that. And yes, for those of us that are leaders, to be able to lead that by example and to teach that. And, you know, I teach my leaders to lead means you go first. It doesn't mean you tell me what to do. It means that you are brave and you go in that direction first to make sure that it is safe for me to go there. If you
Oh, I
do
like
not
that.
occupy that particular space, I am not dancing with you. I don't care how handsome you are. I don't care how good you smell. You either make me feel safe that
Come
you
on,
are going to,
cologne.
I know, right?
but that, you know, we do that. We're like, oh my God, he's so cute, right?
Oh,
And
girl, we
that's
gotta
it.
stop that.
And
Yeah, we really gotta cut that shit out.
he's so cute is just one aspect, because you know what, you're so cute too, so that matches,
Thank you.
right? But
Mhm.
you are also all of these other things. So does this other person match all of that? Because if he doesn't, you're selling yourself short for cute. The next guy will be cute and will make you feel safe. Wait for the next guy, right? And really, we need to get rid of the word follow, because that just sends all of us the wrong
Yes.
subliminal message. Receive, you know, be doted on, queen of the world, any word other than follow. Because even leaders, you don't want someone to just follow in your footsteps. That's not fun for either one of us. So it would be great if some authority changed that vocabulary,
I know,
right?
right?
Those of you that have schools, maybe you could consider a word that makes you happier, but doesn't mean subservient, you know?
Yeah, that's actually a great way that you put that. Like, those there is no organization, if you will, for women in this. There is no actual salsa real organization. Like, if you look at like the ballroom world, it's very structured. There's a national organization, there's rules everybody follows. A lot of professional organizations have stuff like that. And then there's also within many industries, you have like female organizations, right? Like women of professional journalists and women in acting or whatever. Like there's nothing like that for women in this industry. And I had said to a couple of people, like my dream, which I'm going to speak it into existence now in the universe, and hopefully it happens, is that I wish that there was an organization for women in the dance industry that could provide resources, that could provide protection, that could provide guidance for all of these women coming into the business. Because when we think about the dance industry or dance in general, majority of the students are women. More women like to dance than men, right? The women are the ones that make up a majority of your student base. And yet somehow, even though there's more women here, the men make more money, the men get paid, the men get hired more, the men get more attention. And it blows my mind. And there's no protective blanket for all of us, if you will. Which is why I wanted to do a show like this, was because it could be a resource for women in the industry. But I would love if somehow, some way, all of us could unite and create a women organization for dancers that women could go to and say, I need help, or how do I go about this? Like you said, Anya, when you started your one partnership, your partner was taking care of all the contracts and it was all on him,
Not
right?
taken care of. Not taken care of. They
Sorry.
were not taken care
Not
of.
taken care of. But you know what like he was handling this, and at what point, like how could we guide women to come up and say, no, I want to be involved in that conversation too? Because
Well,
I know I've been in partnerships where I was kept out of the conversations.
I think that's well, first of all, it's like really good points, and I'm better for hearing everything that you ladies have said. So thank you. I think it has to do with abundance, as Anya said, and surrounding yourself with really talented and proficient people only makes you better. And so I think that leading by example is really important. And the more that I'm in this industry, the more that I'm really trying to meditate on letting my work speak for itself and asking for what I need. So I think the more that we have women in a fantastic position in our industry, leading by example and showing the work and receiving what they need because they're valued, I think that that's what's going to change it. And then also celebrating those that are doing that already.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Yes, please.
as organizers of events, right, Kel, Julissa, when you guys are putting together an event and you reach out to a duo, do you make sure that you are involving both parties in the partnership, or are you just talking to one? I've never run a Congress, so I'm just asking out of curiosity. How does that work for you guys?
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead. Girl, you haven't talked at all. Go ahead.
Only you talk.
Talk. Don't make me talk. 'Cause I'll talk this whole hour.
So I mean, for me, we hire artists and we deal with all of the artists at our events. I mean, sometimes you have more of a personal relationship with one person. So if you made a phone call, you reach out to the one person just naturally. But when we set up phone meetings with artists, generally both myself and my partner Eric are on the call, and all of the artists are on the call as well.
Okay. Okay. Julissa, how about you? How do you handle it for your events?
I always reach out to the girl.
You always reach out to the girl?
I do. If it's like a partnership, I always reach out to her girl, and then she could tell me, okay, well, reach out to him for this and this. But I always check in. It's like,
I love that.
I see her first, you know, because I share that respect with her first. I want her to know that I respect her first. And that's just me, again, being my sister's keeper. And sometimes she'll direct me. She was like, okay, well, he handles that, and then I'll go to him. If it's a team and I know they have a specific director, then yeah, and that director is a male, then yes, I will go out to him. But if it's a couple, then yeah, I will always reach out to her, and then she'll tell me, oh, well, he handles that or whatever, or I handle it, or you can, this email with both our names, we both see it, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, that's how I do it.
Question for Anya and Kelly. In regards to competition, you both have been involved in the competition game much longer than I have. Heck, you run competitions. Just curious, when we enter the competitors' names, for example, for a professional couple, is there a particular reason why the gentleman's name is always going first? Was there a historical reason behind that, or is it just the way it is? I'm just curious.
Do you want to take that in?
I mean, I don't have any history to stand on. It's not something I have researched. I am very used to it. I have also, through my own career, have experienced hearing my name first and feeling awkward about that, feeling all of that's emasculating things, right? Like, I'm used to giving men the privilege. And then also I've experienced sort of taking a back step and thinking, I have earned this position. And then I have also experienced being in a place where these things don't actually matter, right? Like, I've experienced the entire spectrum of those feelings and circumstances and instances. And for me personally, I'm used to hearing, you know, the male's name and then the female's name. And logically it makes sense because the leader goes first. But I, in my head, imagine this as you're on the front lines, going into battle first, making sure it's safe for me to walk that avenue, right? And so in that way, I'm okay with it. In general, I know as artists, we have a tendency to pay attention to these things. And so then we make it alphabetical order. So it's neutral, right? No one thing means better than the other. And those are just all of the feelings that I have towards it. I don't necessarily have a constructive anything to say at the moment.
Again, this was just a question I had. I wasn't sure.
And I'm just genuinely telling you my genuine in the moment feelings. And I have nothing else. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Of course.
I think, me personally, it doesn't really bother me that the male name is like, when I dance with my partner, it didn't bother me because, truth be told, you're gonna look at me the whole 4 minutes anyway, so it didn't matter what name came first, because I was gonna own the stage regardless. But I will say that it does bother me when the name isn't listed, like it'll be his first and last name and partner, or like if you have the capacity to film somebody and then post their video, but you don't have the capacity to get both names, that I think was another microaggression. That's number one.
Oh, that's happened more times than I can count.
Yeah.
Let's go on.
The other time I've seen it is there was like I can't remember the event, or some sort of virtual thing during our virtual time where it was like a queen something. It was like an all women's event, but all the women that were featured were bringing their partner. And it really bothered me that on this all women event, queen something or other, that they bring in the male in just for the sake of bringing them in because they weren't necessary. Now that their names are listed first when the event is supposed to be for women. So I'm like, that bothered me, even though on a regular scheme of things, like on a Congress, it doesn't bother me that the male is first. But if the event is centered around women and women empowerment and the queens and yada, 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 and then we're still putting him first. And it's kind of like, it doesn't make any sense to me in that sense.
Oh, when I first started the show, somebody had messaged me and said, I love your program. You should have, and they sent me the name of a male dancer, and they were like, you should have him on your show. And I said, you do realize the show is called Women of Dance, right?
Like, can you just give us one?
Can we have one? And then I caved and I said, you know what? I will feature one man a season, but he has to earn the right to be on the show by having multiple female artists speak nicely of him as an ally. So I will only welcome the allies onto the show because you've earned it, right? But even still, like,
have they?
Well, here's to be fair. When they're coming onto my show, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about their career, but mostly I want to know why these women are saying what they are about them.
Yeah.
Like, what makes you an ally? Because we have so few allies in this business. When you think about it, like, and Julissa, we were joking about this. I was like, I'm going to have allies. And she's like, are there any?
I don't think that.
Like, do we really have true allies?
I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm like, I don't.
Listen, between all of us that are in this discussion right now, Kelly, I think you're the only one that still has your partner. That's been your consistent partner this whole time.
And I don't want to take anything away from anybody else's experience, but I would consider Eric my ally for sure. And I'm a better businesswoman, artist, leader because I have a great partner doing the work with me every day. So, I mean, I've been so lucky, and I understand that that's not an experience that everybody else has. You know, not everybody. I'm sure there's plenty of people that do, but yeah. I understand from some of my friends that they don't feel that same level of, you know, having an ally, but I do feel that I do in Eric, and I'm super grateful for it.
I have to say, I only had one longtime professional partner, and I never had, I mean, he's my brother. We talk on the phone all the time. I didn't have the same experiences as everyone else. I just hear the horror stories, and I'm like, I'm grateful that I had a partner that told me, no, this is what you need. This is what you deserve. This is that. Like, he was very honest. And he was also the person that was like, it's your right to say no, because I'm going to say no. We're not doing it. Like, I don't feel like it. Okay. It was okay. You know, like, it is what it is. So he taught me the importance and the value of saying no. We have the right to pick and choose, you know? Yeah. I didn't have a bad experience with a partner. I mean, I just don't have them because obviously I have 3 kids. I can't be traveling that much anymore. But it wasn't a bad experience for me. But I have heard, same as you, Kelly, I've heard some crazy stories, and I can't even imagine being in it, because it probably would have took me out of the scene, which is the sad tragedy that happens.
With a lot of artists, with a lot of female artists, they end up leaving the scene completely. And it's heartbreaking because they're so talented.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, all of the effort that we're all collectively making is going to prevent that happening in the future, right? Being vocal about the fact that there are other women who feel like you and here's what we're doing about it. And here are our experiences. And I think a big part of that is also talking about the men that make us feel good,
Mhm.
right? And, I'm very fortunate to say that both Julissa's and Kelly's partners feel like my allies. I love Eric. I'm grateful for the support he's shown me. I love Gordon.
Same.
I'm grateful for the support he's shown me. And I could have a whole list of men that make me feel safe. Is my list of men that make me feel awful much longer? Unfortunately, it is. But I
We
would,
have a really long list there.
yes,
Don't
and
allow it.
I would gladly prefer to spend my time talking about the men that make me feel amazing instead.
Yes, absolutely. I always said, I'm like, I've been making a mental list. I will never publish the list of the guys that have been bad mouthed, but I know who you are. You're on my shit list. But I will share the allies because I don't believe in bad mouthing people, but I would like to lift up those that lift up others.
I would like to say, and this is perhaps a hard opinion or maybe seen as controversial, but in my experience of my own personal growth, I am getting to a place where speaking the truth does not equal bad mouthing.
True.
And I do currently believe this might change, and I didn't really feel this before, but currently I believe telling the truth does not equal gossip or spilling the tea or any of these derogatory things. It's the truth. And if we don't call people out, they constantly stay hidden and they don't have repercussions and continue to have their privilege. I'm not telling you to publish your list, but I am saying that if I had one to publish, I would do it.
I can tell you that as an organizer of events, we try to hire people who work well together, and we see what they're like backstage, and we hire artists who are good names for our industry. And so as long as people keep working with the people who are positive and push our industry forward and support other artists, the more that we do that in this industry, there's nowhere to go but better.
Yeah.
Agreed. I love it. We are already past 2 o'clock. I can't believe how fast this hour went by. I think we talked about. I think we talked about a lot of really important stuff. I think this episode gave a lot of women a lot of great resources and guidance. And is there anything else each one of you would like to say, based off of what we talked about, whether it be a piece of advice or words of encouragement or something to the women that are watching this, women in the salsa industry?
Go ahead, Anya.
I would like to say thank you, Sharonne, for putting this together. Thank you for giving all of us a voice and a platform, and for truly helping us feel seen, heard, special, celebrated. It was an honor to be on your show because I've never been celebrated publicly in the way that you made me feel. So I really appreciate that. I hope that you get all the support in the world because your intentions are in the right place, but also you're producing such a good product that I think, the joy you gave me will then carry on because I'll teach a good class and empower 20 more women and it spreads. So I want you to know how valued you are and how big of an impact you truly have. Whether you have 10 views or 1,000 views, it all gets paid forward.
Thank you.
For all of the girls and women and females that are in our industry, you have sisters, you have allies. You don't have to say yes. You do have the power of choice, and that is your biggest empowerment. So I encourage everybody that's watching and listening to know that you are the priority. And if something feels wrong, say no, because there will be another dance teacher that doesn't yell at you. There will be another person that makes you feel good instead of bad. There will be the next person that asks you to dance. Whatever you think makes this bad situation worth it, it is not worth it. And if there's anything you can learn from titans in the industry that have just done it for you, right? So you don't have to, is that you don't have to say yes to anything unless it is the best possible scenario. So ask for that, because that's how we make change.
That's good.
Kel, just gonna go around the window now.
Yes, I echo, and Sharonne, thank you for inviting us to have the conversation. I think that that's where it all starts, and I completely agree with Anya. I'm just so grateful to you for putting positivity out there, and for having the conversation, and for putting a resource out there. Our industry is so special to me, and so I really am grateful for you putting this out there. I think it's a real gift to our industry, and thank you for including me. And I've learned so much today from all three of you, so thank you so much.
And Kel, you're my problem solver, so I'm expecting you to come up with a lot of solutions.
Do my
'Cause you're really good at solving problems. We're gonna talk more for sure. Julissa, last words from you.
Yeah, I would just say the same. Ditto. The only advice I would probably give outside of what has already been said is just find your tribe, you know, like align yourself with other women in the community who you feel are moving in spaces with integrity, who have that freedom of choice or that confidence of choice, even if you don't, so that you can, like you said, you pay it forward from that stuff. It's so important to have a tribe, you know, like it. And I'm not talking about like people that you have to speak to every day and hang out with, but just have people. I did a interview one time on mentorship, because I'm like super into mentoring and like the need for them. And that's all it is. It's finding people that are there in your corner and have experienced things that you would like to experience or have experienced, and find those people that you're comfortable with, so that you can gain that confidence in the scene. And Sharonne, you know I love you, girl.
I love you too. I love you too.
Having me always.
Ladies, again, I want to say thank you so much to all of you for agreeing to be on the show. It was very important for me to have very different women with very different experiences, but each just being incredibly successful and role models. I am so honored to have all of you as members of my tribe. I love you all. All of you inspire me in so many different ways. I look up to all of you so much. And you just shared so much knowledge with everybody. I am eternally grateful to you all. So thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you, everybody who tuned in and watched.
And
We will
commented.
be.
There's a lot of comments too.
I know there's a lot of comments. A lot of people were up in the chat. I hope you guys will all join me next week. We'll be back with our regular episodes, and my guest will be the multiple-time Bachata Cabaret champion, Regan Heros. So she'll be joining us, and maybe we'll get her twin boys to make an appearance on camera while we're at it.
Yeah.
Because they're so cute. All right, ladies, thank you so much. Everyone, again, thank you so much for watching the special episode of Women of Dance, my special panel, Women of Salsa. I'm your host, Sharonne Vinokurov, and I'll see you all live next week. Bye.